Good morning. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going, Mac?
Doing good. Oh, Dahlia's here. Yay.
Hey, y'all, sorry. I've been having a lot of conflicts with the time of this meeting, but it's one of my favorites.
Well, we likely scale it down soon. It looks like a lot of things are being cleared out to the rest of the team.
Cool.
So awesome. It's the first year. So welcome everybody for the Dev Metrics Working Group. I believe we don't have a PM stakeholder this time around, but we'll follow up with Josh afterwards. As always, I will start with sharing my screen and we can go over the metrics. And this time I have it open already. So we are at the 15th MRs per month. Christopher, would you like to lead the discussion?
Yeah, sure. I didn't get a chance to do an update. We are currently at exactly 2 weeks of a 10 business days, I should say, of a 22 business day working month. So what I've noticed is we're a little bit behind. What I've been so far able to attribute to this to is it's August and folks are taking vacations. So we're seeing a lot more people out for a week or even 2 weeks in a lot of cases. So one of the things I'll probably do is in the next week, I'll ask my directors to go back and kind of give me a percentage of like, what's the workforce effective for this month. But it definitely appears that we have a August not holiday, but I guess an August vacation season kind of situation going on.
I would add, actually from ops, what we're noticing, we're spending quite a bit of bandwidth on escalations and looking at debugging infrastructure and incidents and so on. So I think that might also be translating to other teams depending on their level of involvement. That's a new thing that started to take from our capacity as well.
Okay. Do we know if that's real fixes, or is it just in time spent but not a whole lot of output?
I will need to come back for you on the data on like bug fixes specifically, but you look at like the issue you had tagged some folks in. So a number of engineers are in debugging. It's not really translating into code changes, but a lot of, spending hours looking at code and trying to figure out where the issue is coming from. So that's a bit different to track from, MRs that we can capture in throughput.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear about the other escalations. That one was a fairly straightforward one, relatively speaking, relative to 180 folks, 3 people shouldn't statistically, it'll statistically affect things obviously, but not be statistically significant. So I'd be curious to hear about the other escalations and kind of understand it better. Cool, good observation. And what's the next one, Mech?
Sure, sorry, I was just slacking, Kyle. I think we need to start writing things down, what we talked about, so it's there for other folks that missed the meeting. The next one is MRs per author, and I know there's some discussions later as well, so I'll let you lead, Christopher, on how.
Yeah, so this is kind of a similar story. If you got people taking vacations or escalations that are slowing down MR throughput, you're going to see an add drop in the average. This is the other problem, not problem, but one of the things you got to keep an eye on from an average perspective is ideally tomorrow would be the middle of our month. We'd be at about 5, and we're tracking behind that at this point based on that. So it kind of meshes with the other one. Now, the one aspect that is interesting here is we're doing this per author, and we got a decision made in basically the PM and engineering meeting to basically recalibrate on this. So we're gonna basically go to looking at our staff. I think it's going to be staff of development plus quality plus UX
And PM.
and PM. Is it PM as well? Okay, all right. So it's gonna change our goal from that perspective. So we'll have to figure out how best to kind of measure that and understand that.
Yep. And I just got an issue created just before this meeting. I'll tag everybody there as well. I'm moving on to the next chart. No big updates from me. We're still monitoring this. I think this may not make it into Periscope if you want to start measuring time to resolve P1s and P2s, because that's what the alignment from product is. And Josh can chime in when he comes back next week. So to me, the trend is getting stable. It's not increasing, but we have a long tail that we need to improve on, especially our ones. Yeah. With that, I will go back to the agenda. And I think we're done with hypotheses as well, correct? Since they are coded. Awesome. So let's just,
No,
we're not done?
8 is still open.
Oh, my bad.
Mark's
Sorry.
working on.
Okay.
But I was going to ask if we should keep that open. It seems like from what I'm seeing on the issue, there's a lot of work that would need to take place to get the merge sizes in there. Because we did the line count, right? But then there's going to be some extra work to get the size of the differences into some consumable fashion. And do we want to invest that much time to further refine on this hypothesis or not? And that's probably a Christopher call.
Yeah, the way I remember this is we had invalidated the hypothesis. So if we want to mark it red, and then we want to say that if we want to change that hypothesis at some later date based on line counts, we could do that. I think we should probably push forward and open an issue to basically request that, because I think it's still valuable information. But I wouldn't hold open this working group for that investigation. That's more just normal business course.
Issue has been opened already. I linked it there. It's 2178, and that includes adding a new API on our side, and then Snowflake to ingest this API for the line counts. And that we can use that as a tracking, Christopher, however you like to structure it.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. So should it be red? Number 8?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Awesome. Craig, would you mind coloring it? And then I'll move on to the agenda.
Got it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I have the third one, and I want to close the loop on data parity in Periscope. I think, Mark, do you want to summarize your findings?
So we
Yeah, we can hear you. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I was looking through, we had a discrepancy between the MRs merged per month in Periscope and the quality dashboard. And I did notice that it pretty evenly matched the security MRs, which were coming from dev, but there was a lot of security MRs, and I'm not sure, well, I had a look into the source of those security merge requests, and it is mostly EE dev and CE dev, and a couple in maybe Workhorse, I think it was. But there is also an error in the list of projects for Periscope, which is accounting for that as well. So there's two things which attribute to a slight discrepancy there, which I think Christopher asked about in Slack a while ago. And one of them being the security merge requests that we don't import for Periscope, and the other being a slight error in the project list, which doesn't match up with the quality dashboard.
Do you know how much that import bug is contributing? Are we talking like hundreds of MRs or like 2 digits or?
I do it today, but I'll have some more info tomorrow.
Okay. I have a question on data in August, because I think the last we looked at the dashboard, there was nothing coming in for August, correct? Is there still a data sync issue?
So I did look at the query in Periscope, and it uses, so for MRs merged per month, it waits until the month is completed before it actually populates that, that month in the chart.
But we want data in real time, right? Similar to how we have now.
Yeah, I guess that's just a change to that. It was probably, it must have been implemented that way, but I just realized that as well.
Got it. Christopher, you're a stakeholder. What do you want us to do? You want us to open an issue and get it in real time for this?
Is it that we're not getting in real time at all? Or is
I think the data's there. I think the data's there. It's just that the query doesn't add that month.
Yeah,
until it's over.
I can't even see the data. Like my chart says query return no matching rows. So I don't even have the view at all.
do you have the filter set to 365 days?
Oh, that, okay.
There's this great feature, which is if you set your feet to 1 day, you won't get any data for half of them. You have to basically reset it to.
Is it per chart or just a global setting?
It's a global setting at the top.
Okay. Okay.
It's a great user interface feature. Yeah, so we should update the SQLs to show the current month. We should also update the throughputs to include community contributions, which right now they're excluded, which is just removing the line.
Yeah, so because that has been valuable, hasn't it, to be able to see this running through the month. That's what we've been doing in this meeting.
Right.
Yes.
And what I don't know is are these queries set up in just in the chart and they get saved and then that's the only place, or do we actually have them somehow code merged or anything like that?
I'm not actually sure. I've just been looking at the charts myself. So when you click edit, you can see the entire query, but I'm not familiar enough to know whether that's in code or whether it's just a config in the Periscope app itself.
Okay, because both of those changes are fairly easy to make. One is to add the less than equal, and then the other one is basically remove the contribute line. It's just, what I don't know is if I click save, that's going to save it there, but if somebody overwrites it. So maybe that's what we need to do is ask the data team just to confirm that, if we do it on that page, that's sufficient from that perspective.
Yep. It sounds like we need two issues. Mark, you have the best knowledge here in this working group. Do you mind taking this on?
I'll raise these issues.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll take a pause here. Anything else in regards to data parity we need to touch on?
I don't think so. I think the one question that's kind of outstanding in my mind, it's not for this working group, but probably for something you know, is as we look to potentially retire the quality dashboards, is you have to build it out per team and those kinds of things, and how do we best work to address that?
I think there's two approach here. There's an issue already from Josh to replicate everything in Periscope. I do think that if everything goes into the GitLab org project, right, it's probably easier to dogfood it and put it inside because everything is in one place. So depending on what the level of visibility you want, if you want the metric to be at the exact level, then it should be in Periscope. And then we can worry about double work. I think it's forced to do double work, but if it's ground level execution for each team, I would like to try to dogfood as much as we can and potentially put pressure on getting CSV export in the product itself, and also more usable issue tracker filters so you can just go into issue tracker itself and not having a CSV export to work around things. So that would be my take on it. Happy to hear your feedback. Or
I think I'm okay with that. I think the thing that I just need to know is how I can systematically go through the teams, because like a lot of times I'll go dig in on a team or I'll be having a conversation with somebody. Now it's pretty easy from the web interface just to go look at that specific team. So that's why I was thinking that on the Periscope side, but if it's in the product and team members can basically present that information, I think that's a valid strategy as well.
Okay.
Meg, do you have a sense of how close we are to getting this in the product? Because the other part is that what we get with Insight is the aggregation of all these projects. So when we look at a team contribution, it's not just over CE or EE, and we are not have to mentally bring it all together. And that's extremely valuable. So I'd like, before we leave Insight, I'd like to see where can we get that data, in whether it's in our product or in Periscope.
What do you mean by aggregate? So there are many levels here. There's one. So the first, the big encompassing one is dev, right? And then what we have in GitLab org and like other stuff. So I think we should aim for the aggregate to be in the GitLab.org group. We're working with distribution right now. They're actually moving the Shards project, which is outside, into GitLab.org. So that solves that. Coming from the dev and PM metrics, and Christopher can help me add more color to this as well. I think there's a less of an urgency to track security work for now, and we want to incentivize them to move into GitLab.org. So having Marin, and the dates for Marin is, I think it's like end of August, we're gonna start having security MRs in GitLab.com. And then they're gonna retire dev by December. The reason for dev is that we need to support the tail of 3 backports. So like the project is there, but I think we're accelerating on getting security MRs inside GitLab.org. So when that's done, we could potentially use the native insights, because we're working on features to exclude projects. So it's not like everything. So you can just narrow it down. So each team's dashboard, you can be a bit more selective in the projects that you have. So it was going to take like a few releases, but I think that's the way to go.
Okay, cool. Thank
you. Questions, Greg, Christopher?
I just one other thing, which is we are trying to keep it down to anything under CE from a repo perspective, which means we may start having some debates about that. But if we decide to expand it in the next year, let's say, for instance. But I think the key aspect here is the theory is that's going to drive us more to put stuff in the product as opposed to have software work outside of it.
Sorry, what do you mean by that, Christopher? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so like right now we have a lot of security repos that are done by the security team. Those will not be included in the account, essentially. So that's where the recalibration happens, as an example. But it should be most of the development teams. But if we have a lot of stuff being developed outside of it, that justification. Technically, I'm still the DRI for this, even though the decision was made above me. So I do have some flexibility here, but like the idea is to try to keep the scope of development to development and the product itself as much as possible.
Yeah. More of my concern is if you look at Insight and look at the number of projects that we're tracking, it's not just in CE, and it depends on which repos each team might be contributing to. That's more of, I'd like to make sure that we are encompassing the full capacity of the team and not only looking at CE and engaging that, because the conversation may be different from team to team depending on what other repos they contribute to.
Which other repos are you thinking of?
Insight is like, if you look at Insight and sort of go through the teams, at the bottom of each page, you'll see a list of projects. And I think most have more than just CE and EE repos that they contribute to.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is there a big one besides the dev one that we know about? That's what I'm trying to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's part of the recalibration too. That's the reason why we're recalibrating the expectations around it. So
yeah, I'll send you a sample link, and you can gauge an idea of the different repos that are listed from here.
Can you folks hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my Zoom just froze, so I'm not going to touch anything here. The list right now is on parity with whatever is in Periscope. So you look at the list that's in the next point below, where we highlighted the bug in the import, that should be 100% minus things that are in dev. So the list is there. I channel Christopher here, where I think we need to focus on the customer-facing numbers, right? So like the new way of accounting, we can discuss in detail below, is that we want to capture customer-facing work. And then the numerator is going to be static, so we're not going to be unique authors anymore. It's just going to be a static number of staffing in development, UX, PM, quality. That's like the static divider, and it's going to increase as we hire. So it's not going to be fluctuating as much as before. But we want to start aligning people on like customer-facing work and incentivize them to put things into the single repo and the big fives like runner, right? A runner with a Gitterly and a few others that are like the core microservices of the product. Does that make sense?
Let's see where the statistics draw up. Go from there.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. So the next point is about the bug in Periscope. I think Mark, you have this correct. We have an issue created already.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I think there's one for Omnibus and one for Gymnasium as well. I think that's potentially not being included.
Yeah, there might be, because it looks like a transcription error, there might have been some others missed. I haven't been able to compare it yet, but I don't think it's going to be too big.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for taking this on. Next one is a short one. So the legacy team labels are being deprecated next week. I think my team and I are going to take on a lot of the communication. But if you have extra time, please iterate that again. I think we're going to add deprecate in all the team legacy team labels now, and then next week we should be full on the new labels permanently. I have the next one as well. So I think we should aim to close out this working group next week if we can. Any thoughts on everybody else? Is there anything else that we need to make sure we close out before we disband this group? And I've listed a few here, outstanding ones. So I'll pause there for discussions.
Do you think we'll get the accounting method done by the end of next week?
This is issue 134, correct?
Yeah.
The definition, yes. Implementation, we will get started on that, but the implementation will be done by next week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want that to be implementation of that to be a criteria for exit. I guess is just like you put it as outstanding work. It's outstanding work that we expect to get done without having the working group close.
Yeah, and that's why I highlighted that, like, is there a venue for us to collaborate after this banning? Like maybe have updates in the development channel or in Slack or anything else. Do folks have any ideas?
Yeah, so the idea is that we're not perpetuating meetings, but it does feel like we need to have some level of interaction here. I wonder, Mac, maybe you and I take the action to try to figure out what that consists of.
Sure.
Because it's not cross-functional necessarily as much as it's development quality, the collaborations.
Yep. We could sync up in our one-on-ones and communicate out in the development quality channel as well. Like we can, yeah, sure, we can.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. The other way is we have the quality dev board where issues are being worked. It could be putting issues on that board and managing it that way.
What do you mean by quality dev?
The board that we created, like the infrastructure dev board, we have a similar one, right, for performance.
Oh, performance.
I guess it's performance, right? So that one's performance. So the question would be is do we create a quality dev board that we manage like we do in the Mac?
Got it. Okay. That's a good venue to look at as well. And I have a few others. Do we want to discuss any of the accounting method? Dali, you have any questions? Like, please feel free to click on the link and look. That's the new proposed way of counting things. I want to be sensitive on how we've come here before and make sure that we capture and address the needs and concerns as well going forward. Okay. Okay, moving on to the Periscope import back. So this is going to be tackled by Mark. There's a summary report on customer bugs closed out per week that support would like to see. So this is another ongoing thing that will close out after closing out the working group. And detecting sendes and NSF links and add a customer label. This is minor improvements. We're trying to adopt food serverless here. That's why it's taking a long time. And is there anything else that I haven't captured here for future action items needed?
What are the exit criteria remains? I know that we had the 20% increase in development department throughput. We've actually achieved that. So I feel like that one's done as well.
Sure, let me share my screen.
I was trying to see if there's any others. Training for engineering managers and product managers to use priority and severity label effectively.
That one could be closed out, I think. We have 2 YouTube recordings already, and we have been, with the help from Josh, being engaged. I have another action item from the product meeting last week to put a few more guidelines on, like, severity should not change, but priority can change, and all those guidelines. I think that should be enough to close this out by next week. So yeah, we can consider this almost done.
Okay, cool. And then training for engineering managers on KPIs. So I went back and looked at the pre-existing video, which Dahlia and Eric created. Thank you, Dahlia. And I think that's sufficient for now, mainly because if we tried to create a video right now, we'd be in this transition between Periscope and the product. And it feels like we should definitely revisit to update that training, but it feels like until we get closer to having that either in the product and have those pieces in the product and or Periscope that it doesn't feel like remaking it would be the appropriate time.
Okay. So should we adjust this and grade this as done, because we still need to revisit this again for this working group? Like, how would you like to
let's create an issue and then consider it done, with the issue being a follow-up item outside of the working group.
Okay, that sounds good. Cool. Anything else? Okay. Dalia, anything else you would like to call out that we need to capture?
No, I do have like more tabs of issues that are linked from the agenda. So I will circle back in the issues and add comments.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Mike, for leading this, and the team, of course, for all your efforts.
Sure. I will open an MR after this meeting. My Zoom is totally bonkers right now, by the way. I'm flying blind. I cannot see anybody's facial expressions. So I'm being extra sensitive here to feedback. So I'll open an MR and add an issue that Christopher suggested for the KPIs. And I will tag everybody on issue 134. That is the main way of doing accounting going forward. And if you have any comments, please put it in there, and we will do pre-planning before moving into the quality project.
Do you want me to open up the issue for the training? I can do that one.
Yeah, sure, please. If you take it up, I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Thanks for driving this, by the way.
Yep, happy to do this. So it looks like we're good to close this working group out next week. Is anybody in objection or agreement?
I'm in violent agreement.
It's been a while since February, and then I think we have a lot of metrics since then. So I think I'm happy to see that it's drawing to a close with a clear path forward.
Probably the one vote we need is Josh's from product perspective.
Yes.
Let's make sure we get his sign off as well.
Yeah,
just as a stakeholder.
I will give him a heads up. I think he has a customer call. Cool. With that, we are 2 minutes early. I will give back 2 minutes of everyone's valuable time. I'll update the recording, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.